Welcome to part 2 of Word Counting Coding Challenge. This time, what I'm going to do is the exact thing I just did in the previous video where I did a word counting application in JavaScript. I'm going to do the same exact thing in processing. This will be written in the Java programming language. Now, I explained a bunch of details in the previous video. I'm going to kind of gloss over those just to see, kind of work through this rather quickly. But I'm going to use the same text file and the same exact algorithm. So let's get started. So processing actually, if you're not aware, has this lovely object built into it called an int dictionary, IntDict. So I'm going to call that counts, and I can say counts equals a new int dictionary. And what this now does is what I'm able to do with this is store right in there strings with numbers. There's also a float dictionary if I want strings with floating point numbers, and a string dictionary if I want to pair strings with strings. If I want to do any other kind of sophisticated pairing in processing, I need to use something called a hash map, which is a sort of native Java class for doing hash tables, dictionaries, that sort of thing. And I can demonstrate that in a future video if people are interested. But the int dictionary is going to make this really quick and easy. So first thing I want to do is load in the text file. So I already have that rainbow.txt, the text from the Rainbow Wikipedia article, loaded into in a text file in the data folder. Remember, load strings, just like in P5, loads that text file and separates it into lines. So the first thing that I want to do then is say join that. So I can say join lines with a line break. So now I have all of the separate lines joined into one big text. Why? Because ultimately what I want to do now is have a big array of all the tokens, the words. So I'm going to say, now I'm going to say split tokens. And actually, I can use the native Java split function, but split tokens is in processing and it'll be kind of easy for me to use it. I want to split all words by, and anything I put in here, it now acts as a delimiter. So I'm just going to say period, question mark, exclamation, dollar sign, whatever, period, question mark, exclamation. Again, I can always refine what the delimiters are, and there are ways of being fancier with that using the Java split function. I can improve that later, but I just want to see print array tokens. I just want to see that this is working, so let me print out that array into the console. There it is. Oh, that didn't work. Ah, guess what I forgot? Space. Space would be good, and line break, that would be good too. Let's try that again. There we go. So this looks like it's working. We can see I have all of these tokens. Comma I should probably include. Let's get a comma in there, semicolon. That's a little bit better. Let's see. OK, great. So there's going to be stray junk in there, and I could always filter out that junk, but I've got a big array of every single word in this array. So now the next thing I want to do, just as I did before, is loop through that. Loop through all of the tokens. And I want the same exact algorithm. So I want to say if the dictionary, so before I said if the word value in the dictionary is undefined, that's how I did that in JavaScript. Here, I want to use the int dictionary function. And let's actually just look at int dictionary, the reference page. So we can see here, here's the reference page for a dictionary, and there's a bunch of functions that I want to use. And the function I'm looking for right now is hasKey. So hasKey checks if a key already exists in the dictionary. So that's the function I want to use. Come back over to my processing program. If counts hasKey, and let's make a variable here, string word equals tokens index I, has that word already as a key, right? If it exists, what do I want to do? I want to add 1 to its count. And by the way, processing, knowing that this is an int dictionary, has functions that will just do stuff to the numbers in there. So I can actually say count. Oh, actually, I need to add the key. Sorry, count. So the first thing I need to do is that adds to a value. So this manipulates the numbers. I could just use set. So I want to just set that word to count.set that word to the value 1. Perfect. Oh no, that's if it was a new one. So if it's a new one, I want to set it to 1, right? If it doesn't exist. If it does exist, what do I want to do? I want to say counts dot increment that word. So the increment function reaches into the value and adds 1 to it. So this now is the same exact algorithm. In that dictionary, either set a new word to 1 or increment that word, increment the value, the count of that word by 1. So let's just see. I'm not sure what will happen if I say print line counts, but let's see how it decides to format it in the console. Ooh, and I have some sort of error. What's going on here? Let's look in the errors tab. No errors. It just, who knows? So we can see this looks good. A quote definitely needs to be a delimiter. There's so many things in quotes, I think. So let me add quotes as a delimiter, which I need to escape with a backslash. Why do I see all these extra quotes in there? Maybe that's just the way it's spitting it out. Oh, another thing I should do is do the same thing to change everything to lowercase. And we can see, okay, well, I'm assuming that this is working because I'm seeing like a whole lot of things with the number 1. So I'm getting all these words and their counts. So now what I want to do is let's draw something to the window. So I want to iterate through the entire list. So how do I iterate over int dictionary and processing? Well, one thing I can do is I can just get a copy of the keys. Because if I can get those keys in an array, just like I did in JavaScript, then I can iterate over it. I could have my own array, but here I know that in dictionary what it's doing, so I'm going to ask for the array. So I could say here, a string keys equals counts key array. And then, and by the way, I can use this sort of enhanced loop. I can say for every key in keys, I could say, let's pick a random x. Let's pick a random y. And let's draw the text to the window. Oh, I shouldn't use key because key is a built-in variable in processing that indicates the key that was pressed. So I'm going to draw the text at a random location. So let's just see what happens if I do this. And I'm going to say, and I already used the variable word, so that's a bad idea. WD, I don't know, K for key. I don't like one-letter variables, but I just did it anyway. And we can see here after a while, this is going to run. I think. Oh, this is terrible. That's in the loop. So because I have this big font, and I've been printing stuff to the console, I wasn't paying attention. This is actually, I'm doing this in the loop of looking at all the tokens, which is pretty much a disaster. So this 100% needs, and by the way, if you're ever doing an application like this, you should start with a really, really small text file. That would be much better than what I'm doing. And you can see, okay, that worked. So you can see that it drew all sorts of words everywhere. So let's do a couple things. One, let's draw a black background. Let's actually make this full screen. So we can kind of quickly see full screen. There we go. Those are all the words, all the unique words that are in that document. And now what I can do actually is I can say, let's get the count from the counts get from the key, right? Let's get that count, and let's say text size count. So I'm going to assign it the font size to how many times it appeared. There we go. So we can see very briefly, most of the things are just like a font size of 1, but you can see rainbow is there, A is there, and they're in sort of random locations. So I could be more thoughtful about how I'm positioning these, placing these. I could use a different mapping. I could use some other kind of like scale. But you can see the basic idea. I now have a word counting application that shows me all the words that appear with their size according to the frequency that they appear in that document in processing. Okay, thanks very much. And see you in the next video where I'm going to look at something called TF-IDF.